joining me. So we are live on we're live on Facebook, um YouTube, right? Okay, so here we go. So I go again by so today we're looking at clarity and path integration, mastering co-parenting, clarity and path integration. Thank you everyone on Instagram for bearing with me. Okay, so we're live back on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for those of you who alerted me. Right. So clarity and path integration. Now, I was saying that before we went off that you say the greatest challenge a lot of couples have is the fact that they don't align what they want and articulate what they want. Now, for those of you whose marriages has failed, the greatest problem you can create for the child is when you bring your pain into co-parenting. And now a lot of people do not understand that a child is not supposed to know that the two of you at loggerheads. There is a way to explain the broken down marriage to the child, but what is a situation where one person is using the child to siphon money from the other, or one person is trying to get back at the ex using the child. This has damaged a whole lot of relationship and has created a problem in co-parenting wherein the child becomes a victim. Now, for those of you whose marriage is still working, I did mention that the biggest problem also is the fact that you have different worldview about parenting, and if you do not articulate the end you want, you're going to create a crisis for the child. So when I do sessions on co-parenting for people who are divorced, one thing I do immediately is to get the two of them to write the end game or what they expect to see at the end of co-parenting. And it's amazing that they both want the same thing, but they have not totally articulated it. That if you don't clearly articulate what both of you want, word for word, the system you're going to build is going to be subjective and it's going to child. Now, I understand that there are situations where we have some we have a parent in co-parenting who is not present at all, who is not willing to be part of any upbringing of a child. And we have a terrible culture, in Africa, where a man who is irresponsible, a woman who has never been responsible, suddenly shows up during wedding to claim a child. Now, people need to understand that that is not going to work in the days to come because times have changed. If you claim to be a father and you are not present in the life of the child, and there is no investment whatsoever simply because you are divorced, you are nothing but a mobile spam donor, a human spam bank, wherein that has been contracted to inseminate your eggs. That's basically who you are, because parenting requires presence. Even when divorce has happened, parenting requires investment, financial investment, physical investment. So you need to understand that do not even allow you come up to say you have a child when it's the time of their glory, when it was their mother that raised them without you, or when it was their father that raised them without you. Then you now wear agbada and show up to say that, it's my child. It's not your child, right? You have just donated semen and you got paid in the enjoyment you had during the sex. Now, if marriage is broken down, doesn't mean co-parenting must break down. So if you have not had any form of investment at all, now I'm not talking about situations where the father wanted to play a role and the mother shut him out totally, because we've also had that role. Now, if you are doing that as a mother, then that is not being fair to the man, because you are bringing your pain into co-parenting. People need to understand that broken down marriage is a different movie. That movie has collapsed. The movie did not get to see the light of the day. Now, co-parenting is a different movie with a different scripting, with a different location. You cannot bring your behavior from broken down marriage into co-parenting, because you're going to damage your child. And that is why I said in the movie of co-parenting, the main cast is the child, and only the child must take the shine. You cannot bring yourself and take the shine and wear, and go to your child's PTA, shut the father out, and wear, the clothes of a man and say you are father, mother. No, except where the father has not demonstrated responsibility. The pain of marriage must be resolved in marriage. And yesterday, I dealt with dealing with the pain of a broken down marriage as it concerns co-parenting. Now, Heather Echler says that co-parenting is not a competition between two homes. It's a collaboration of two parents doing what is best for the child. I'll take that again. Co-parenting is not a competition between two homes. It's a collaboration doing what is best for the child. Now, when there is no uniform clarity about the destination we are headed, we will, we will, when there is no uniform clarity about the destination we are headed, we will sabotage the best interest of the child while trying to protect our own interest. And this also goes to parents who are not married, but they are co-parenting. So you may not be married, but you are co-parenting. This also goes to the two of you, right? So when there is no uniform clarity about the destination we are headed, we will self-sabotage, we'll sabotage the best interest of the child while trying to protect our own interest. That, yes, your esteem must not be tied to your child. And I did mention that in my home, for example, if my son comes to me and say, "Daddy, can I have candy?" The first question I'm asking is, have you asked your dad? Rabbi, have you asked your mom? Whatever your mom says is what I have said, right? Because there are people who are even married, but they are not co-parenting. They are not even parenting because they have different worldview. Child feels that daddy loves me, mommy hates me. You have created serious problems for the child, right? And that was why in my study of Elon Musk's father divorced his mother. Elon Musk doesn't like his father. In fact, he hated his father. But his father's account of his upbringing showed that it was his father who introduced him to computing. It was his father who paid for the tour where he found this purpose. It was his father who raised him at some point before he eventually left Cape Town or left South Africa for Canada, right? But I don't know the role the mother played, and I don't know what happened where he has come to really, really hate his dad. Now, you need to understand that once there is no uniform end, both of you will place your self-interest ahead of the child, and you're going to damage the child. So parents need to understand that a child is not your husband, because what I see when marriage breaks is a mother begins to say, "Oh, this is my husband." Your son is not your husband. You cannot transfer the emotion of husbandhood on this child because you're going to damage him. When he starts to date, you're going to feel jealous. You are going to sabotage his relationships. You will feel entitled that you must choose who he dates because you're trying to avoid a repetition of what happened between you and his father, right? We all need to come to terms with the fact that parenting, co-parenting is a different movie, different script, different template. So, one, in co-parenting, both actors want the same thing, except in a case where one of them is grossly irresponsible. If you see two ex-couple who want to work together, one of the things you notice is that they both want the same. They want the best for the child. They want the child to turn out right. They want the best for the child. And that has to be clearly understood. Number two, however, there are different maps get in the way of what they truly want. So even though they want the same end, but because they are the same, their environment is not the same, their significant emotional experience is not the same, their worldview about parenting is not the same, the means to achieving the end they want is not in alignment. There's no congruence. So one person believes, I can give a child whatever I want. I mean, I saw a movie which I consider to be one of the best Nigerian movies, and kudos to Tony Abrams. I mean, I've never really seen, I've heard so much about her, but I sat down to see a movie yesterday on Netflix. I can't remember the title, readily right now, but it's a movie about bad parenting and child abuse and bullying, amazing movie. Interpretation of our role as Uduak was top notch. I must salute Adeolu Adekola. I mean, these were Yoruba actors who acted in an English movie and they nailed it totally, right? Now, you would understand that when you have different maps, you will sabotage the end the two of you want, which is why in co-parenting, Nimbe, the movie is Nimbe, thank you very much, right? The two of you need to sit down and agree on what is best for the child. It's no longer about your map or what you want. What the child must become is what must dictate what we must believe. Yesterday, I taught you the triangle of co-parenting, and I explained how to use it, right? So if you missed the past two series on co-parenting, you have to go back to my YouTube channel and, avail yourself of that information. Map, unfortunately, is not the territory, which is why we need to accurately define territory and align our maps. Your map is not the map, right? The map that was used to raise you It's not the map. Many of us, the map that was used to raise us produced pain in us. That pain was not processed before we fell into the wrong hand in marriage. And marriage was sabotaged because we didn't look clearly before we stepped into marriage, or the guy was even sabotaged, or the lady was sabotaged by the pain in their past that they did not process, wherein the person is from a family that couldn't tell him the truth, right? So they sided with them, maybe because it was the one providing funding for the family or something like that, or they didn't like the wife. People bring all kinds of selfish interest into a marriage, and they sabotage the best interest of a couple instead of helping them live together and providing support for the person who is hurting. They side with each other. Eventually the marriage collapses. Now, the map is not the territory. You need to understand that your map is not the territory. Where we are going is more important. Now, if we want to go to Ibadan, for example, from Lagos, for those of you who live in West Africa, now there are several ways to Ibadan, but there is a way that is safest. What is safest and is going to guarantee that end is what we must follow. So you want to go to Ibadan, for example, from Lagos, and instead of going through Berger, you are going to take Epe, and from Epe, you're going to land in Ijebode. From Ijebode, you want to land in Ore. From Ore, you want to land in Abuja, and from Abuja, you now want to start going to Ibadan. You realize that you are going to frustrate people, you are going to waste resources, you are going to disrupt a whole lot of things, and you're going to sabotage a whole lot of things when it comes to co-parenting. Now, so your number 4 says that defining the territory is key in scripting the route for the destination. That if you don't define, if you don't define the territory to say, this is the end we want to get to, this is who this child needs to become based on the traits and tendency he has shown, we will, and if we don't agree on that end, we're going to sabotage the child because we will be trying to outdo each other. Now, in custody, I'm aware that sometimes they say the child should spend some time with the father, the child should spend time with the mother. So what happens is this: daddy, let's say they're spending more time with the mother, mommy says, you need to discipline these children, they must not take candy. The moment they go to daddy's house, daddy gives them candy and gives them all kinds of things that mommy is not giving them, in a way that by the time the children return, they are telling their mom, but in daddy's place, we used to eat this, we used to have this, why are you hard on us? What daddy is doing is to show the children that he loves the children more. Unknown to him, is sabotaging the best interest of the children, which is where we must have agreement, align with the agreement, sign to the agreement, and live out the agreement consistently. Now, defining the territory is key in scripting the route for the destination. Now, the destination, however, must be in the best interest of the child. The destination cannot be in your best interest. It must be in the best interest of the child. So when I see people who use their children as trophy, consistently, flaunting the child to get back at a particular spouse, I just shake my head, because the child is your victim. You are trying to take the shine in a movie that is not yours. The main cast in the movie of co-parenting child is not the exes, is a child. You are just a custodian, not the owner, and you need to clearly understand that the destination that you articulate must be in the best interest of the child. However, you must be open, and there must be open and honest communication about why you are together and your concerns. This has to be talked through. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking to you about the bottlenecks in co-parenting and how to overcome the bottlenecks, right? So there must be open and honest communication about why you are together and your basic concerns as it concerns co-parenting. Now, so here are a couple of things you need to understand when it comes to achieving or scripting the end game or the territory and path integration. Now, if you're a moderator of the agreement between two exes, this can also help you. If you are a mediator, this will also help you as well. Now, number 1, the question we need to ask when we want to articulate the end that we want for the child is, what traits has the child exhibited? Or how do we assist the child identify his or her core traits? If you have a child at the point of divorce, you should be able to know. So what we do in co-parenting location and in therapy is we give them 2 different sheets of paper, and we ask them to articulate on the sheet of paper the traits they have identified in the child or in the children, right? So you need to do it separately because we need to bring it together and compare. So you give the husband, ex-husband, and ex-wife a sheet of paper, and you ask them, okay, your child is Simon or your child is Angela, right? What are the traits and the tendency that Angela has exhibited that you think are very core? You allow them write on 2 different sheets of paper, right? They write it separately. Now, based on the number 2, based on the traits and tendency that you have seen your child exhibit, what end do you want for this child, right? At what point can you say the 2 of you have succeeded? Now, where one person is irresponsible, then you revert to single parenting, right? Single parenting template is more or less similar to the parenting template. 16 days I spent, previous week and last week on that. You can go take that series, right? So what end do we want for the child? You need to write this out separately as well. Now, when they have written those 2 things separately, the traits that they have noticed in the child, and where the 2 of them have not noticed any trait, they may need the services of a professional to help them profile the child and say to the 2 of them, the core trait your child is, what that trait means. Because a child sends a signal. It's called a gene in us, or what you know as genius. Now, if you cannot pick the gene in a child, you are going to impose your own gene and sacrifice the genius of the child for your own selfish interest. Now, so what trait is the child exhibited? 2 of you write it separately. What end do we want for the child? Write it separately. Then number 3 will now be to create a clear vision of the uniform end you want and a clear perceptual code. Now, so the person who is moderating the session or the mediator will look at what the 2 of you have highlighted, and surprisingly, in many cases, the 2 of them have written the same thing in separate ways. So the goal of the mediator is to align what the 2 of you have written into a single document and ask the 2 of you if that is okay by you. Please, let me say this. In mediation for co-parenting, you need to bring your A game to the table. You need to be very sincere and be very honest. Don't just go to there out of duty when you have something else in mind. Because if you have something else in mind and you are saying something during the session, you are a saboteur, right? And you're going to sabotage the child. So we now fuse what the 2 of you have articulated into a clear uniform vision, and you now create a perceptual code. Now, for those of you who have been listening to me since we started this series, you will know already what a perceptual code is. A perceptual code of who the child is, and that must govern our behavior in raising the child, which includes communication and discipline. So you can say, this child is a royalty, this child is a celebrity, this child is an innovator, this child is a world changer. You need to choose one perceptual code that no matter the behavior the child exhibits, the only thing you must see is his perceptual code. His perceptual code is what must govern the discipline. If you say my child is a diplomat, you cannot slap a diplomat under. You need to find out the disciplinary code for a diplomat, which is basically negotiation and effective communication and a reminder of who he is, right? So you need to align the similarities, create a uniform perceptual code that the 2 of you will align with, engage, right, and deploy to raise the child. And number 4 there, the question now comes after you have clearly aligned the similarities and created a single uniform vision. You now ask, what will it cost us to get to that end that we have articulated? Now, what will it cost us physically? What will it cost us emotionally? What will it cost us financially? Right? So physically will mean what presence is required. So let's say one of the persons is remarried. Is the child going to be living with the person that's remarried, or is going to stay with the person who is still single? Now, what physical presence will be required? How do we alternate, right? Visitation, right? And how do we create, we'll take a session on creating the script in co-parenting. Now, what will it cost us emotionally? So for example, open day, the 2 of us must be present, right? Sports day, we must be present as co-parent, right? What will it cost us financially? Any parent who is not willing to be financially responsible is not a parent, right? You need to understand that, because parenting is going to cost both of you financially. So when you look at the end that you have seen, that you have articulated, what is it going to cost you financially? You need to break it down to monthly plan thereabout. Now, then the next question will now come: who must we become to deliver that end? Which is where a lot of co-parents fail, right? We have articulated the end. So this is the script. This is the happy ending. But what role do we need to play, right? Who must we become to achieve that end? So if you are a hurting person, it must be in the best interest of your child for you to heal, so that you can function in the new role, which will exclude shouting, yelling, spanking, temper tantrums, and transferring your aggression on the child. Do you understand? So who must we become? Because you need to act that role to perfection. In that movie Nimbe, Tony Abrams acted Uduak, and she interpreted the Calabar role as a Yoruba girl perfectly. And my respect went top-notch higher for that lady, right? So she couldn't, you will not see the Yoruba accent in an interpretation of the Calabar role. It's the same way in parenting. We must not see your anger accent. We must not see your heartbreak accent within the confines of the role of a co-parent, right? You need to find a way to deal with that. Yesterday's session, I tried to deal with that. So who must we become to deliver that end? The scripting for the end of the child: if it forbids you from slapping, you must not slap. If it forbids you from shouting, you cannot afford to shout. You need to rehearse and practice a way of life for you. And guess what? If you align to that code, it also makes you a better person, right? Now, the next question will now be: how do we share the responsibility, and what is our skill audit to know who is best fit for each role? So, for example, the husband may be a better person when it comes to communication discipline than the wife, right? So, or the ex. So if you, as their mother, if you are the one who doesn't have the capacity to discipline without damaging a child, what you are used to is punishment, anger, tantrums, then you need to agree that based on the best interest for this child, anytime they hear, I'm going to call the father, right, to talk to them about what they are doing wrong. Do you understand? So both of you need to understand the skill. Who plays the most? Who can give more emotional affection, right? You need to distribute the role, right? And say, this is who we must become, and you are better at this. You are better at communication. And it's not a competition of, I am better than you. No. You need to do a skill audit, which is why a mediator is required when it comes to co-parenting. So how do we share responsibility, and what is our skill audit to know who is best fit for each role? Now, the question is now, how do you script a clarity charter? There is what we call a clarity charter, or a path integration charter. There's a way to script it. There are 5 questions you need to ask. I will ask the question, then I will show you a sample. Now, are you ready? Now, so the first question when it comes to co-parenting is to create a clarity charter, or what some people will call your vision. You must have a co-parenting vision that the two of you have aligned to. Number 1, who are we? You need to find a word to describe the two of you, because there must be something you're doing together. Now, in this case, so for example, you can say, we are a team. Now, you are not a team of lovers. You are a team of something, right? So you are a team because you need to team up. You know that it's not about your individual expression of your ability. In a team, is about the goal of the team. The goal of the team is to win the World Cup. It's not about you becoming the most valuable player. It's about winning the World Cup. So if you are a goalkeeper, you need to do the goalkeeping well in the best interest of the team. And if you are a goalkeeper, or you are if you are a defender, you need to defend very well. But if you are a striker, you need to score the goal. But in situations where the ball is heading towards your net, and you say, I am the striker. God has caught my goalkeeper, I will expose him. You are not exposing your goalkeeper. You are exposing your team. If they score against you, they have not scored against your goalkeeper. They have scored against your team. Star players do not win or lose matches. Teams win or lose matches. So when co-parents don't align together to co-parent and come into alignment, they still and they will sabotage the child. Whatever is done to expose your ex is exposing the child. The child is the team. The child is the World Cup. Every time they score a goal against you, you say bye-bye because they're going to knock you out. So who are we? You need to find a description of who we are. So if you say we are a team, or you can be a village, or you can be a nation, basically, but a team, I think, is appropriate for co-parenting. Number two, what is our identity qualifier? What type of team are you? So an example is we are a team of responsible parents, right? That can be your identity qualifier, right? And number three will be what is our niche, right? So we have answered the question, who are we? So we say we are a team. And seriously, if you are not even divorced, this can also be very applicable to you, right? Because you need to create the clarity charter for your parenting, because a case may come where one person dies, the other person continues with the charter, right? So who are we? We are a team. What is our identity qualifier of responsible parent? Number three, what is our niche, right? What stands us out from every other person? So an example here is we are creatively collaborating, right? So because you are not married, or you are no longer married, then it's a collaboration, a team that collaborates together. Then number four, who do we want to raise? So in our collaboration as a team, what exactly are we trying to achieve, right? So you need to now infuse your vision that you did previously in here to raise, and the perceptual code. So we are creatively collaborating to raise a royalty, or maybe a showbiz icon, or an innovative icon based on the traits and the tendency that your child has shown. And number five, what effect will that solution have? So if we creatively collaborate to raise this child, who will this child become to his world, right? So the answer can be maybe transforming our world in service to God and humanity, or something like that. Now, if you bring out the answers to this question into a statement, it will read something like this: we are a team of responsible parents creatively collaborating to raise a royalty a royalty transforming our world in service to God and humanity. I'll take that again. You can be a team. We are a team of responsible parents creatively collaborating to raise a royalty, thereby transforming our world in service to God and humanity, right? Or it can be we are a team of responsible parents creatively collaborating to raise an innovative icon in transforming our world in service to God and humanity. Do you understand? Now, that statement is the most important part of co-parenting, because that becomes your vision. Where there is no vision, the people become selfish, subjective. They get into all kinds of shenanigans till they destroy a child. But when there is a vision, where there is no vision, the people perish. With clarity, it becomes clear how we need to work towards that end. So this is what we call how to script a clarity charter in co-parenting, which is very, very, very key. Now, after you have done that, the next thing we now do is we need to create a happy ending charter. A happy ending charter. End of this co-parenting exercise, what do we want to see, right? What would be the happy ending of this movie? Remember, I have said to you that when marriage breaks down, that is a movie. Marriage is a different parenting. Co-parenting is a different movie entirely, with a different script, with a different direction, with a different location, with a different casting, and with a different interpretation. So you need to create the happy ending charter for your child, which becomes an image in your child, in your heart, that governs the behavior of the two of you. So if you do this very well, hurt and hatred will leave you, because there's a bigger work to do. Marriage has failed. Can co-parenting succeed, right? So a typical happy ending will sound like, so if your child is Chioma, it can be, and so Chioma was inducted into the Global Solutions Hall of Fame with several patents and best-selling books to her credit, becoming indispensable to our world as a role model. That is a typical happy ending. That is the end that the two of you see in addition to the vision, and that is what pumps your adrenaline to act in a particular way to co-produce this global icon. So the two of you are actually co-producers, or co-movie directors, or what do they call it now? Co-producers or something, co-executive directors, right? Producing a best-selling movie, where the best-selling movie is not the two of you, the best-selling movie is your child, right? That your praises, your glory comes from your ability to come together and fashion out a winning strategy that can get the best interest of the child out. So you need to create your happy ending code If you are parenting with your wife, marriage has not broken down, you can do this as well, right? So what is the happy ending code? So we can say, and so Chioma was inducted. You know, a typical movie, how it ends, right? And they live happily thereafter. But in this case, your happy ending code must be about the child, right? It must not even show you, but the whole world will know that the two of you buried your hatchet to come together to co-parent a global icon. So a happy ending charter will look like, and so Chioma was inducted into the Global Solutions Hall of Fame with several patents and best-selling books to her credit, becoming indispensable to our world as a role model. What this shows is that your report card must be measured in Chioma's ability into Global Solutions Hall of Fame. It means you are raising a global icon. Now, Chioma's ability to have several patents and best-selling books, right? And Chioma's ability to becoming indispensable to our world, and Chioma's ability to become a role model. So what this means is you are raising a global solution who will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. You are raising a child who will have patents, so which means she will create new products or new solution free. She will write best-selling books, and she will become indispensable to our world. She will become a role model. That's what you're raising. Now, if that is the charter, who must you become? You know you need to lead by example. Understanding this, for example, if there's a father who smokes or who is on drugs, will make you drug your drug dealing to raise this child, because your drug dealing modeling is counterproductive to this happy ending that we have agreed to get to. And it also counterproductive to the vision, because you cannot live your life anyhow. If you belong to a team, you cannot become fat and not be able to run as a player. You need to ensure that everything must be done in the best interest of the vision of the team, right? Or else you will be the loophole through which we lose the match. So in the Clarity Charter, we have identified today that you need to clarify who we are, our identity qualifier, our niche, who we want to raise, and the effect of that solution. And we agree that we are a team of responsible parents creatively collaborating to raise a royalty, thereby transforming our world in service to God and humanity. This becomes your vision that you paste on your wall as a concerned child, and then your happy ending charter. And so Chioma was inducted into the Global Solutions Hall of Fame with several patents and best-selling products to her credit, becoming indispensable to our world as a role model. If you know anyone at all co-parenting, you need to get them to listen to this particular episode. I will end today by taking a quote from General George Casey, and she says, "Clarity and simplicity are the antidotes to complexity and uncertainty." Clarity and simplicity are the antidote and uncertainty. That co-parenting, when marriage breaks down, there's a lot of complexity and a lot of uncertainty, which is why when we come together to raise a child together, there has to be clarity and there has to be simplicity, which is what we have attained today. So listen to this over and over again. I want to believe that this session has really helped you, and I want you to know that if you follow this, you will totally transform the two of you, and you will transform your child. You will collaborate to raise a child who is a global icon, who is not emotionally damaged or psychologically damaged by the trauma involving the separation of the two of you. I know you can, you must, and you will, right? So thank you very much for joining me today. It's been 100 days of doing PF things. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, I'll be back, and we'll be looking at the bottlenecks in co-parenting and how to navigate them. Thank you so much for joining me this 100 days. Tomorrow, we start day 1. I celebrate you, appreciate you, and thank you for your numerous testimonials. I so much celebrate you. Thank you for everything. Have a fantastic day. My name is Praise Fuwe. Let us go out there and heal our world and bring solution to the world. Bye-bye. As if the totality of your instruction was predicated on that person. Now I know that there are people who never had this, but they met their spouse, and